If you have arrived at this video, I suggest that you go to the first video titled Catholicism and Ecumenism, an Irreconcilable Proposition, for this is a continuation of it and may not be clear apart from it. Amid the great confusion surrounding this novel concept of a hermeneutic of continuity, perhaps the greatest is its presuming to provide an interpretation of something present to what preceded it, without emphasizing a correlation with it and a correspondence to it, largely because the correspondence between what had been and what presently is had grown almost impossible to reconcile. Indeed, it is precisely as a result of what is experienced as discontinuity that it has culminated in a crisis of identity. The notion of Vatican II as an organic development has become increasingly difficult to sustain given the undeniably profound changes that occurred within the Church and which still occur unabated. These changes, in turn, resulted in balkanization of the Church into conflicting and irreconcilable factions within it, much like what had occurred within Protestantism. Far from a hermeneutic of continuity, what we now confront is not an evolution so much as it is a mutation, a fundamental change in the Church's understanding of itself, its mission, and its relevance. What is more, we must ask, since when did the Church need an interpretation of itself? Is this even a meaningful question? Of the many problems plaguing the current Church is its penchant for literal and verbal complexity and ambiguity, the saying of something that sounds profound, such as hermeneutic for continuity, but in the end is without substance. It possesses a sense of impenetrable density, something opaque to immediate understanding and comprehension. It appears to have an aura of meaning, but is ultimately empty of it. In other words, it appears to have gravitas, but is found wanting. It conceals itself as a cipher, something written in secret codes that only the initiated, those who are on the inside track, who claim to possess cognitive superiority and the necessary intelligence, unlike you and me, can grasp. Such arrogance. We then come to understand the purpose of obfuscation. If a statement cannot be understood, how can it be attacked? It is transparent and dishonest rhetorical device. If attacked, deflect the attack by indicting the attacker, specifically his supposed lack of understanding or intellectual perspicacity. The attempt to reconcile what has essentially become the post-Catholic conciliar church with the church that had preceded it for so many centuries has consistently failed. Why? Because there is no hermeneutic of continuity and no so-called hermeneutic of rupture. The entire notion of a hermeneutic at all between Vatican II and the preconciliar church has become, for all intents and purposes, a mere literary device, a bromide that has the gravitas of a cliché. The failure, or more often than not, the unwillingness to honestly acknowledge the hermeneutic of continuity to be the discredited project it has resulted in, now verges on culminating in schism. Why? Given the widespread scandal, confusion, and the recurring odor of heresy that has both inundated the Church and most especially characterized the pontificate of Francis, a pontiff who holds himself to be the bold embodiment and the most vigorous enforcer of all the doctrines that effectively corrupted Catholicism following Vatican II. It has become increasingly difficult, if not actually impossible, to reconcile the Roman Catholic Church that existed for 2,000 years with the ecumenical faith community that emerged as an impoverished resemblance, a mere simulacrum of what preceded it. In fact, the hermeneutic of continuity proposes to do something more than simply pretend that a continuity exists where one does not exist at all. It seeks to tether us to what we have found to be foreign to our Catholic religion, holding the strange and false gods of other religions to be the same gods that Catholics worship and have always worshipped. Indeed, to go so far as to show reverence to the Amazonian pagan goddess Pachamama in the Vatican gardens, and to display this naked idol as a centerpiece in the Carmelite Church of Santa Maria in Traspatina in Rome. The resulting scandal throughout the world was palpable. Let us then be painfully clear. The Catholic faith is, in fact, largely beside the point in the post-Catholic conciliar church. Other ecclesial communities, however factionalized into 1,000 sects by irreconcilable disagreements with each other, both Protestant and Orthodox, we are now given to understand are equally able to bring us to heaven. And not even specifically Christian religions, but any religion, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, all are acknowledged in the ecumenical doctrine of Vatican II to be viable alternatives, not just to Catholicism, but to Christianity itself. So why be a Catholic at all? This is a huge question, perhaps the most conspicuous question that no one wishes to ask and answer for two reasons. First, to simply ask it is to summarily indict the very raison d'etre of Vatican II. What was its purpose as a convocation of Catholics if it abolished every reason for being Catholic rather than anything else? The second is that the question is impossible to coherently answer, for effectively the same reason, which is there is no reason. The documents of Vatican II provide not just no compelling reason, but no reason at all to be a Catholic, to remain a Catholic, or to become a Catholic. Shall we then go to the nearest mosque, temple, gurdwara, or pagoda? However culturally inflected the worship, the end is the same if you are on board with Francis and Friends, with ecumenism, synodality, and Francis's art of accompaniment. On the other hand, if you have maintained your genuine Catholic faith against the reproach of men in white robes, scarlet caps, amaranth cicados, and a dazzling array of modern stylized croziers, who benignly do not despise pagans, Muslims, Hindus, or Buddhists, but who despise you, Catholic man and Catholic woman. As to use Francis's dismissive and derogatory word for us, indietrus, or rigid backwardness. Didn't Christ warn us that even those within the household will despise us as bastards, not belonging to the house at all? In closing, I'd like to address children's parents and grandparents. This is a parable only, but tell the children of something which once was unspeakably beautiful and manifestly holy. Assure them that it still is somewhere, and always will be, in spite of every effort to suppress it, obscure it, and abolish it, by men who have made a treaty with the world, rather than keeping a covenant with God. God keep you.